Okay, well, first of all, Bob, everyone is busier, but the researchers show that parents are actually spending more time today with their children than there were years ago. And but it's kind of a catch 22 because parents are spending more time because of this economic anxiety. And it's not the climate anxiety, it's an anxiety whereby they are fearful that their children will not be as successful as they are. So what you have today are parents that are really kind of helicopter parents. In fact, the new terminology is the intensive parent, the parent that has their child in the three extracurricular activities. They're learning three languages. They're going to this extracurricular. They're going to this social club, and parents are involved. But the issue is not that involved; it's the time, how that time is being spent. Are parents available, or is it only time being spent around goal oriented types of things, achievement oriented types of things? So that's where I think the issue becomes, is that we're asking about homework, we're asking about what are your grades, when there are things that we could ask about as well. How are you feeling? Are you lonely? Have you had any thoughts that you're concerned about? Tell me about your friends. Do you have many? There are other questions that we could ask on top of this goal oriented type of culture that we've created in parenting. I'm a parent of eight. I have eight wonderful children, all uniquely different, ranging in ages from 20 to 33. So not only am I a clinical psychologist, I think I'm quite equipped to talk about parenting. And I believe it starts at home. Parents, if I had to operationalize in a nutshell what we do well, we guard and we guide. As parents, we guard and we guide. The school educates. And oftentimes the roles get a little enmeshed. And when they get enmeshed, sometimes schools feel like they're wearing the hats of parents. And that could be somewhat or seen as unfair, where when parents, if a child should come to school, should, of course, ready to learn. And I say ready to learn doesn't mean just about academics. A child should have some impulse control, a certain amount of respect for themselves and others, and among other things like other social skills. When I was growing up, we called that home training. So, I believe that there are distinct roles for schools and for parents and guardians.
And society. We speak of parents, we
Yes.
speak of schools. What about society, Dr. Brown?
Well, this is probably my biggest concern right now, is because the children are watching. I think we as adults sometimes forget that more is caught than is taught at first. They're watching us. So if we're showing up at school board meetings and we're not necessarily representing ourselves or our families well, the children are watching. Granted, I'm an independent, autonomous adult. Who likes being told what to do? I don't know too many people that like that. However, our children will have to go to school or have to be educated. Doesn't necessarily have to be in a school. But if they do go to school, if that's the choice, then schools are full of rules. So to say you can't tell me what to do as an adult and your children are seeing that, and then we're sending our children into institutions that are full of rules, it kind of sets them up. It sets the teachers up as well. So society, we as adults, we just have to be mindful that the children are watching. That phrase or that quote, that character is who you are when no one's watching, that's told a bunch to children, but I think adults could embody that as well.
We are such a divided society today. The cosmic question, Dr. Brown, what can we do about it?
You know, I, my research has focused on empathy, true empathy, not putting on someone else's shoes type of empathy, but the type of empathy that if I'm communicating to you, with you, that you believe me, and then you look within yourself for similar emotions and feelings or situations as I'm communicating. And then and only then are you able to attempt to understand me. So I think we drop the ball when we say we have to communicate. I think it's really more about comprehension. and there's a difference, and that would actually put us on a path to being more empathic. And empathy would be the start.
We need to listen to each other. Yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely.
Yeah. Dr. Brown, also, there's no question about the impact of social media on teenagers today. The genie is out of the bottle, if you will. How do we manage um, social media when it comes to teens?
Well, I think you're correct about the genie being out of the bottle. I think one of the things that most people want to do is put the genie back in the bottle. And from everything that's being researched right now, it's been said that to take a child's digital device would be like tying one of the child's arms behind their backs. So basically, they're saying that the children have become dependent on these in all domains, so to speak. The key is to help children understand their usage, help them monitor their usage, help them have the impulse control of when to use it, when not to, have them to understand when to interact and when not to interact. So a lot of what we can do today is helping children understand and be responsible users of social media. First of all, let me say that my interactions with teens and families comes through seminars that I conduct on a weekly basis worldwide. So I'm constantly having focus groups with teens. I'm constantly having focus groups and parent academies throughout our nation and abroad. So what I'm finding often is that people want to have dialogue. They want to communicate and listen. However, sometimes we don't do a good enough job of protecting our mouths from our brains. And when I say that, the brain wasn't designed to help us to think. It was actually designed to help us not to have to think. So we actually have to kind of put the brakes on it. So my rule of thumb, and has been for a long time, is that if you think something and you think if it comes out of your mouth, it may be offensive, the good news is you don't have to say it.
One of the, I'm looking over the CDC report. I'm reading about you here now, Dr. Brown. It says here that kids are experiencing scary news on a regular basis and pressures to fit in. And you say, or at least it's said here, although that may be tough, kids can be taught to be tougher. What are your thoughts about toughening up these young people in our society today? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, when I say toughening up, and children can be taught to be tougher. So what happens is, because of all the things that are happening to our teens, and I also have to say these same things are happening to parents and guardians. What parents and guardians attempt to do is bubble wrap children. We want to bubble wrap our children to protect them from social media harassment and bullying and feeling left out. We want to protect them from the polarization that's going on in society. We bubble wrap them. So in bubble wrapping them, in essence, what we're doing is we're stealing their challenges. And when you steal a child's challenges, it doesn't give that child an opportunity to practice being resilient, bouncing back, or even confronting things and attempting to overcome them. So that's what I mean when I say children can be tougher. Basically, as parents, we have to kind of step back a ways and realize that we can raise children who are rear children who are who are, I guess, safe, or we can rear children who are strong.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I think that parents need guidance. We were talking about parenting a moment ago, and if you could boil it down, what is your message to the parents of teenagers today? Is there a generalized message you would share?
Sure. If this were my parent academy, I would tell parents what I tell them all over the world: 4S. Uh, it works, and it works with all children. It's inclusive for all. The first F would be continue to be fun. We forget sometimes that based on all the stresses that are happening to us, we forget to smile. Something as simple as a smile. You know, the training wheels for laughter is a smile. So being fun. Fun doesn't have to cost money. It could just hang out with your kids, sit with them. If they're playing video games, you may not be interested, but check it out, see what they're doing. Play board games, do something, go for a walk, do something together. So I would tell parents to be fun. I tell parents to also be fair, understanding that children today are dealing with different stressors than most parents had to deal with growing up. So being fair, that understanding that there's a different world with social media. When children come home, they're still trying to be connected to this social media world. And it's funny, we say be connected when oftentimes they're being isolated or seeing how they don't fit in. I also tell parents to be firm. And being firm is sometimes where we drop the ball. Consistency structures limits and boundaries. And all that means is my mother used to tell me, Burger King may have great burgers, but you can't have it your way. So children need to know that at home. They don't need to know that when, they hear their first no and fall apart in school. They don't need to first have limits and structure placed upon them by law enforcement. There are things that can be taught at home, and firmness is a part of that. And my last is faith. And I define faith in a very educational in educational terminology. If you looked it up, it would mean intense hope or trust in someone or something. Have faith in your children. Believe in them. Don't give up on them. Let them know there's nothing they could ever do to make you stop loving them. Let them know that. Also, have faith in schools. They're doing the best they can. Have faith in our society. Have faith in our country. We've seen things like this happen. We've seen the pendulum move. One of the things I love the most about this country is that we're resilient. So that's what I would have for parents.
I am intrigued by your life story as well, and I wonder if you might share that with our viewers today.
Sure. My life story, the short version, mom and dad, we were solidly middle class. Mom and dad had been married over 20 years. And one day my dad woke up and said he didn't want to be married anymore. And we went from middle class to inner city poverty overnight. Um, I tell people, jokingly, I wish my dad had waited till I'd grown up to become a clinical psychologist. I would have helped him with his midlife crisis. But moved to the inner city projects. My oldest sibling and only brother, Oscar, became my hero, and he was murdered when I was 11. So needless to say, I had trauma. I missed my dad, as my other siblings did, but my only brother and oldest sibling, was murdered when I was 11. So I'm here in front of you today doing this interview because of family members who didn't give up on me, who believed in me, educators who pushed me beyond what I thought I could do, and a village, a community that never took their eyes off me. So if I was doing something away from home, you best believe my mom heard about it before I got home. So it was all those things that were put in place for me. I was able to go to college, the first in my family to graduate high school. I went to the College of William and Mary, have degrees in psychology, anthropology, and education, and a doctorate in clinical psychology. I'm a retired dean and professor from Hampton University. And at 29 years old, which was a long time ago for me, I was the youngest tenured full professor in our country. And now I pretty much travel the world giving seminars and master classes on various topics.
What wonderful, wonderful life, Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown, I always like to end these by turning it over to you. I'm sure there are some things you would like to say that I might not have asked. What are some thoughts you have as we wrap up this interview?
I would like people to know, particularly young people, that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be okay, but just know that things will eventually be okay.